welcome back to One on One with Mr. U. Of course, I'm your host, Mr. U. In studio with us today, Miracle Sims, wife, mother, faith-driven entrepreneur, and host of the GSL Talk Show. Good to have you in the house, Miracle. How are you today?
I'm glad to be here, man. My apologies, look for the delay and everything like that, but I'm glad to be here, and thank you so much for the invitation.
No, my pleasure, my pleasure. Customarily, I always ask our guests the first question, and they all get the same first question and the same last question. Describe your upbringing, your childhood. For most folks, that's pretty good. They can share it, describe it, but for some folks, it's triggering. So we're ready for it either way. But go ahead and share your upbringing and childhood with us briefly. Go ahead, Miracle.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, overall, my upbringing in childhood was really good, I would say. I was raised, starting out the beginning years it was just me and my mom because my father passed before I was born. A few months before I was born, he passed away, her husband at that particular time. And so it was me and her. She's an evangelist, and we, most of my upbringing again was just me and her for the first 5 years, and then she got married again. And so so that blessed me with the father figure in the home and things like that, outside of the Lord, and we ended up having my younger sister, they ended up having my younger sister and everything like that. And so it was the four of us, from then on until I graduated and left on. I always kind of saw myself as the prodigal son a little bit, but not necessarily because I wanted to go and blow my fortunes or something like that. It was more so because I guess deep inside I realized like a call on my life to do more than what I was around, and no shade against the, again, my upbringing and whatnot. It just was, sometimes that there's something more in you beyond what you're experiencing. And so, my background, I went into theater and stuff like that, which of course, when you're in a small town, it's like, oh, what are you going to do with that, and all these different type of things. So, my mind, I guess, thought beyond, I guess the norm in those ways. So that's pretty much what my upbringing looked like. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but I guess I'll pause right there.
That's good. One thing I'm always curious about, because I don't get a chance to hear it that often, except for this show. I got to interview some folks who were single and married women who didn't have a father in the house. So I don't get to see that very often. Usually it's the opposite. Tell me what the impact of that void, if you will, for the time that your father wasn't there until you got to having a father figure in the household and your stepdad. Tell me kind of what you think the impact was on you then, and maybe even a little later on in life.
I mean, well, to be honest, I don't know what it was then. I know that my mom always told me about my father, things of that nature. We would visit his grave, and so it wasn't that I didn't know about him and, his family and things like that. We still interacted, with that side of the family and stuff. So, I knew who my grandparents were on that side. I knew he was, passed away. I knew she had this tape of him, one of the last songs that he made, which I recently just put out. Yeah, I re-recorded the song and released it actually this year. So that's a, that was a long journey of me trying to work on that and wanting to do that. So the fact that got accomplished this year was a blessing. And so I know there was a void there, because I mean, obviously I'm just going off of people's memories of him, and I don't have any like footage. The only thing I have of him is photos and the audio. And so of course, people are speaking highly of him, that he's a great man and all these different things. I feel like people speak that way about the deceased all the time. So, I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't, but, how do I know, because I never got the experience.
I get
based on my mom, who I am, I'm assuming that he was a, good gentleman and, and everything. And so, but I will say, I think it played a part in my desire for, I think, love, marriage, relationships, stuff like that. Because I guess I'm one of those 90 babies or whatever that grew up, watching Disney and hearing all the, stuff like that. And then also having that void and stuff. So, when I thought about a family, or when I thought about, getting married and things like that, I, thought about, having fun and just just the dynamic of, again, having both parents in the home. And shout out to my stepfather. He definitely, you know, took me in and treated me as his own and things of that nature. And I do, you know, call him dad and things like that. You know, my mother never, I was never no child to be like, you ain't my daddy. Like that wouldn't, that wasn't even a thought to even say or do in our household. You know what I mean? So, you know, it was never a situation like that. And yes, my younger sister is his, you know, biological child and stuff. And I mean, you know, I can't lie and be like, oh, I didn't feel some differences sometimes, but it was never like him not taking care of me, or, you know, it wasn't anything like that. It just was kind of like treatment to a certain extent, or maybe feeling like, and not harsh treatment, but like, well, I feel like there was this thing against me and my voice, right? And it wasn't probably necessarily him, but it's spiritual. I feel like, where it was like, oh, you need to stay in a child's place, or you need to not talk, or you need, you know what I mean? And I never was that type of like, you know, talking to whatever child. So I always was like, where's this coming from? Like I didn't even, like, I'm not even the one that's like that, you know. But I get it now, because, you know, your girl's online talking every day. I'm doing in children's ministry, talking all the time, you know what I mean? So I get it, you know. Yeah. When you look back on, I look back on those things now, I'm like, yeah, it was just spiritual warfare to try to silence me. But, you know, to God be the glory, right? For you know, growth and maturity and understanding and pushing through all of those things and finding my other outlets and whatnot. That's what it forced me to do at that particular time, find other ways to express myself, which is where I think theater came in, and, you know, writing and poetry and all the other things that I do. So, you know, God turns all things, work it all out.
Stuff too. We're going to get into that. You do a lot. All right, so I'm thinking I can list everything. I probably missed something. I know you're coaching, you're authoring books, you're talking about theater, which is something I don't recall us talking about. You're doing stuff with the talk show. I mean, and you're doing the mom thing, which is probably the most important job, because, you know, that's what really matters, along with other areas of being a wife and entrepreneurship and some other stuff. So, all right, so you're doing so much stuff now. As a mompreneur, which I think I can label you as that safely.
Yeah.
What's your biggest challenge to date as a mompreneur? I know I got plenty of mompreneurs that are on this, you know, listenership, and they are watching and listening, and they faithfully support us, and they're doing their thing. They're juggling those balls, same way you are. What's your biggest challenge today as a mompreneur, in your opinion, in your assessment?
Ooh, okay. To be honest, like, I know a lot of people probably would think it's the fact that I am doing multiple things that would be the challenging thing. But I think for me, it's more so being okay with me being who I am and who God created me to be. Like, even this morning, I was reflecting on, and it's gonna come out later as a future juice for those that go to the channel.
Right.
Anyway,
Okay.
these are my daily inspiration or musings that I write now. And it's gonna come out on Friday because I was reflecting on it. But anywho, a friend of mine sent me something today, actually, early this morning, about basically like finding your, like, being number one in your field. And I'm just praying about that. I'm like, you know, on one hand, it sounds motivating. You're like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna work to be number one in my field. But when you're someone like me with all these different fields, that's what it felt like. I'm like, Lord, well, how can I be number one in my field when I got all these fields? You know. But I was praying about that and just really seeking him about that. He kind of gave me the revelation that I don't necessarily have a field, I have an orchard. And so I got all these different trees and stuff, but it's still the same soil, still the same thing. And I'm like, because I get that, because I'm like, you know, a lot of the things I do center around, again, like you said earlier, faith and relationships, or, you know, and all these different type of things. So to me, it works together. But then I know that other people may look at it and it looks like crazy because you look like I'm doing all these different things and whatever. But you know, I'm okay with having an orchard. You know what I'm saying? And if other people don't understand that and stuff, I think, you know, that can get difficult. Because then you start to question your purpose and start to question what God is doing. And you know what I mean? You'll be like, well, am I only supposed to have one field? Like, maybe I should niche down. You know, I get all that feedback and whatnot as well. But, you know, I think learning to be okay with who God created you to be is a very important thing. So that's something I'm kind of struggling with now. Struggling, but not struggling. Like, I'm just still cultivating that side of myself to be okay with that and walking that fully, and, you know, and what that looks like. So,
okay,
yeah,
all right.
that's really a difficult thing.
We got a lot to cover and a certain amount of time to get this. Let's see if we can try to get through this a little bit. Now, I know among the many things that you're doing, one thing you are doing is you are an accountability and cultivation coach. Tell us what that actually means. What does that entail to have that? I never heard that cultivation coach title before. That's new to me. So I've done coaching before. I still do it now, but that's different for me. So what is that exactly? What does it entail?
Well, to me, it's just basically inspired by my journey because when I was a single woman and I was struggling with all of that and being like, Lord, when is my time? And all the time. So where is my husband? And all those different things. Eventually I was he took me on this journey for me to see like I wasn't necessarily ready for what I thought I was.
That's good.
Showing me how to get ready and different things like that. And so I call that now my cultivation period because I felt like that was in that particular season. I did a lot of spiritual growing and accepting God into my life more personally versus like off of my mom's prayers or, you know what I mean? Or just going off of what I knew growing up, or whatever. It was in my 20s. So I felt like it was very formative at that time to build my own relationship with God. And I felt by the time I was done with that, I realized that, okay, it's not necessarily just love, marriage, and those things that I'm missing. It's that relationship with Christ personally is what I was missing. And, I started to be more fulfilled as well as to, seek the Lord about what he wanted to do with me in my life. Because I was on my track of doing what I thought, going for, like I said, theater, acting, all these different type of things that I was doing at that particular time. And then feeling unfulfilled, feeling as if something was missing. And I'm like, well, what is it? Is it love and marriage? That's what it is, and then going for that. And then God being like, no, actually it's this. Actually it's me. And things like that is what I felt like the Lord was showing me at that time. And so again, I call that my cultivation period. But then years later, when I put out the book that I had wrote at that particular time, I realized that the cultivating don't stop just because, I got through that particular time. And now I am on the other side of marriage and I guess living my dreams in all these ways that I imagined at that particular time. I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I'm still cultivating, I guess, like they say, I guess higher and higher, favor to favor, whatever they say. And so yeah, that's pretty much where it comes from. Is, I guess helping someone along the way to continue to grow. That's what I see a cultivation coach to be. I see it as like, at that particular time, I did have people sewing and pouring into me and, encouraging me and things like that. But I didn't necessarily have like a particular person each time. And I feel like I'm graced to be that person for people. But at the same time too, I feel like God is like, I'm still seeking that. Like, what does that mean? Because it's a whole journey when it comes to the coaching side. But
no doubt. Absolutely. Okay. So I know you help individuals kind of discover their purpose and grow in faith. Mm-hmm. And I understand better now what a cultivation coach is. Who's your ideal coaching client? Do you know who that is yet? Or you're still trying to figure out who your ideal client is?
Now, I would say, I know people like, oh, you can't say everybody, whatever. But I don't like to limit it to gender and stuff like that. If a guy can accept some things from me, I would coach a guy too. Obviously, I guess someone like me would be, maybe would gravitate to me. So African American Christian woman or whatever, maybe in her 20s or 30s or something like that. But I think for me, my ideal person would be anybody that's for real. Like if you're willing to do the work and willing to look at yourself and say, hey, you know what? I need to change. Miracle, help me, you know what I mean? Whatever case may be. And then I give you some advice or I give you practical tools and you actually put it into practice. Like that's the ideal person for me. The person that's going to like take the things and then go forth with it and cultivate it and it grows and change your life. Like not the person that's saying they want to do it or talking about what they want to do. And like, I feel like those type of people, they come to me and then I'm like, hey, this is what I did. This is what you can do. Da, da, da. And then, trying to pour in and give all the things that I didn't have, quote unquote. And it's just like, they stay there. Like, that's unfortunately not the ideal person for me. I need the people that, you're saying it and you are ready to do the thing.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Male or female, but just want to be ready to do the thing. Be ready to change. Be ready to look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? What do I have to lose? You know what I mean? Like that. Yeah.
No, that makes. I think in that regard, any kind of coaching client, needs to have at least that particular prerequisite. You know what? I'm willing to do the work. I'm willing to grow. I'm willing to make changes while I'm coming to you as a coach in the first place. That makes total sense. I want to get into some of your books that you've written, and I definitely want to get into GSL. I want to talk about that. That's an outstanding talk show, by the way, Miracle. I want to get into that. But before we do that, I want to touch on the importance of self-care. We discussed that a lot in our pre-interview chat. And I think I don't really care about offending people when I say stuff, but I do try to guard, what I say. But honestly, I think the word is being muddied so much, it's been so watered down that people think self-care is just doing all types of stuff. I'm like, okay. Talk to our listeners from your perspective of what you think self-care is and why it's important. Especially somebody who doesn't know what self-care actually is, because they see all this watered down version of it out here and it's all over the place, especially on your TV set. But what is self-care in your assessment, and why do you think it's important?
Well, I guess I can answer that as a two-for, as they say, because I think what helped me to see how important self-care was becoming a mom, right? Now, I don't think I necessarily dealt with what they call it, the depression or anything like that. But I started to see how much it was like, okay, I need some me time. I need some here. You and your papa have some time, and I need some time, because now I'm I didn't necessarily feel like I was losing myself. I don't think I allowed myself to lose myself. But I think that when I saw that there was this space of like, okay, I'm on the verge of something close to losing myself, I'm like, no, I need to make sure that I'm taking out time, for me, taking out time for self-care. I can't pour from an empty glass, as they say. So, I got to make sure that, I'm being filled and things like that. And so, so for me, yes, we can always talk about the bubble bath, right? We'd always talk about go massage and all of that. But I would say more important than that is that time with the Lord, that pretty much was one of those things that kind of kicked off GSL, to be honest, because, well, we can talk all about it, but long story short, once COVID hit and stuff like that, one, I had just become a new mom. I think we was like a year in by the time COVID hit. And two, I just was, looking at how things were going in my life before our son. And then, trying to, again, find balance with, okay, now what's my new normal now? Like, am I going to be able to continue the job that I was doing? Am I, trying to figure all those different things out. And then, like I said, noticing that, okay, I'm noticing that I need a little bit of like me time here. I need to separate from the baby a little bit, or whatever. And even if that's just passing him off to my husband, and closing the door, and even now I still need those type of times. But yeah, so more so than anything, I feel like the spiritual self-care is the best thing that we could be doing. And so what I challenged myself to do at that particular time, once once COVID hit and stuff like that, I started challenging myself to study the Bible every day. First it started off with me looking up particular things. Then it got to the point where it's like I'm hearing God speaking to me and through the juice. What I was doing at that particular time was going live every day and sharing whatever I studied. And it just helped me to see like how much God is speaking, and we may be just ignoring him this whole time. But, now I'm at the point where I feel like God gives me these different revelations, or I have these different conversations or prayers, or, these moments where I'm spending time with God every day. And it's been life-changing. It's truly been a life-changing experience. And so that is a big part of my self-care, of making sure I'm spending time with the Lord, listening and talking to him. And then of course we can get to the physical stuff,
Absolutely.
And get to go take the bath and all that. But yeah,
you want Calgon to take you away? Okay, I get it. Okay. I want to get briefly into your books and your authoring. I want to get into GSL, spend a little time there. That's really an awesome talk show. I highly recommend it. All right, so you wrote several books. For me, I wrote a lot of books, but only one's been published because the rest haven't been released yet. So they kind of just sit around. But if there's a book, well, first off, tell me two-part question. One, what inspired you to start writing books? I mean, people out here, unfortunately, if they think they have a story or something to talk about, they want to be an author. They don't always go together. But what inspired you to start writing books? And the second part of the question is, which is the book, the one that is kind of closest to your heart, the one that's like, you know what, I really poured out a lot of me and I was really vulnerable in this book. Which book was that? So first part of the question, what inspired you to start writing in the first place? And two, which is that book that you were the most vulnerable, most transparent, the one that's closest to your heart? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Well, what inspired me in the first place, I think I always had a desire, because again, I would be writing poetry and stuff like that from childhood. So doing all of that kind of, wanted to like put it in something or publish and things like that. But what got me to write the particular book that you're mentioning, as well as I guess technically it was my first full book, was that again that time, that the cultivation period, that single time of my life, because what I was noticing at the time, I had a lot of friends that was married, and I would be looking at their life like, girl, you got it all, you know what I mean? And then they would be looking at me like, girl, you doing it all, you got it all, and I'm over here like, but you got the man and the, you know what I mean, or whatever, and I'm over here by myself in the apartment and stuff. So so my friend was kind of talking about that one day, and we just kind of decided to collab. Like we was going to write a book together, and she was going to write from the married perspective. I was going to write from the single perspective, and basically we were both going to kind of connect about how I don't want to put the title out there about what it's going to be, because hopefully a future project will come out with that title.
Oh, okay.
But we were going to write from the perspective of looking at each other's lives, basically, and but then at the same time appreciating our own lives and stuff like that. And so the crazy thing was, so I'm sitting here writing my part, and she never wrote her part. She still ain't wrote her part, girl. We still good friends and stuff now, but she never did write her part. And so I had been sitting on that idea for like years, and then again, COVID hit, all this type of stuff. And, I'm on the other side now, because again, I was writing from a single perspective. So by the time COVID hit and whatnot, I'm married and got a baby and all this stuff, and kicked off GSL and all that. And I want to say maybe a year or so after I kicked off GSL, I realized that, I started taking these like online self-publishing workshops and whatnot. And finally getting, I guess, the tools that I needed, because I had been looking over the years and trying to figure it out, on my own, and then just always pausing because I'm like, I don't know what size to do. I don't know none of the details stuff. And then finally I, took the workshop or whatever and started to see like, okay, I got this, I got that. Wait a minute, I got everything I need to make a book. What? And so I did it and finally put out what is now the Cultivation Period, a Single Christian's Journey, which is me pretty much sharing my life up until that particular time. In my 20s and what I was learning with how I was dating and things I was learning along the way as a single woman to prepare for marriage. And so, I would say that book, I mean, obviously it's all me, all my life, different things. There might need to be another version at this point, because again, that was my single life, and it's a whole nother situation now, as a married woman and as a mom. But so that's the 2-for-1 answer.
I love it. No, I love it. I love it.
And that's the book that I would say means the most, and because it's all my life and my story. So
that book idea is awesome, man. Y'all gotta finish that, man. I don't think I've ever heard that. That's an awesome idea. She got to do her part. Tell you go to get the writing. Lock her down and get
her. There might be a little something come out later on, man. We're gonna see. We're gonna see.
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. All right, so let's get into. I want to get into a couple more things. We don't have a whole lot of time left, but I want to try to see if we can get some of this stuff in. But I can't ignore God, Sex, and Love, the talk show. I want to get into this a little bit. Tell us what the inspiration was for that, briefly if you can, and kind of just share with us what's going on there. I mean, I subscribe to the YouTube channel. I think it's fantastic. Love to hear your thoughts of how it came about and what you've been seeing, maybe some surprising moments. Kind of fill it to you a little bit about God, Sex, and Love. So go ahead and share that with us. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Well, long story short, again, I know we're going back to the cultivation period, but at that particular time, I'm telling y'all how formative it was. I was looking for content to stay on the straight and narrow, because I'm over here like, Lord, I'm single, I'm horny, my husband ain't around. What you want me to do? And I know what I'm supposed to do as a believer, right? I grew up, and stuff like that. I'm reading the Bible. It's telling me what to do. And at the same time, I'm like, but, is anybody else out there like me? So I was looking on YouTube. I'm looking at, different content and whatnot. Would watch Christian shows. They would only go so far with the conversation. I'm like, I can't relate to y'all, because y'all ain't even, y'all acting like y'all ain't going through what I'm going through. And then I'm watching the secular conversations. And then, of course, they talking about everything, but they're not telling me what I need to hear as a believer. And then even when they had a Christian on their show, they're over talking that person. They're not letting the people, say what their opinions and stuff. And I'm like, so looking at those two things at that particular time, I guess kind of encouraged me to just get online and be like, hey, y'all, if anybody else is out here like me, you're not alone, and this, that, and the other. And that that I would say was the beginning stages of GSL, because, I did start this little, I guess you would say, like, this little series where I just was just sharing my thoughts as a single woman. I call it the hopeful romantic, because I'm like, I'm not hopeless. I'm hopeful. This is going to happen. I don't see it around me. I don't know where he is. I don't know who he is, but it's going to happen and stuff like that. And so there's all these videos of me with a little fro and sitting in my apartment just talking about like different aspects of being single and as a Christian and how I was feeling and what, but then the idea about God, Sex, and Love, the talk show, like in my mind, I thought it was going to be like me and some ladies talking like the real, you know what I mean? But just making sure we're talking about, again, things from a biblical perspective, of course, but then, talking about everything, just a free space to just don't feel like it's taboo or whatever, like say how you feel or whatever. Little did I know the guy had other plans. Like, first of all, he kicked it off in COVID. So obviously there was no group, me at no table or nothing. It was just me, kind of like how we're doing now. And I started off with doing the daily inspiration videos before I did the talk show. So that was a whole nother thing. So that's a whole nother branch on this tree, So I started off with kicking off the thing with doing daily inspiration. And then a few months into that, I got the opportunity to start doing the talk show version. So I started like being intentional in creating those. And so that started coming out every Friday. The slot that I had, I was on another platform at that time. And so they gave me like the 11 p.m. slot and stuff, but we was happy about it. Shout out to those individuals that had those first panel discussions with me and all that different type of stuff. We kicked it off with the importance of sex and marriage. So that was the first talk show that we did, GSL Talk Show. And I interviewed this couple that had been struggling with that, but had overcome and stuff like that. So that was an amazing episode. I feel like it's still relevant. And then, like I said, little did I know God had other plans, because eventually, I want to say maybe a year or so after that, and doing all these different shows, panel discussions, and all this different type of stuff, I ended up meeting the human trafficking survivor, Allie. And she happened to bless me with being on the channel and sharing her testimony. And that is, I want to say, something that has taken things to a whole nother level, that I'm grateful for. But at the same time, it comes with the good and bad, because some people believe her, some people don't. So it comes with trolls, it comes with, all kinds of things. Right. I'm just trying to help her get the word out about, the evils of that side of things as well. And I feel like it still fits the God, Sex, and Love conversation, because, if God was in the sex conversation the way he should be, and we're incorporating his idea and doing it his way, then she might not have been trafficked. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe I wouldn't have gone through the things I've gone through in my life. Maybe a lot of us wouldn't have. So I know people often come and they question the title. They question God, Sex, and Love. They're like, why you got this name? Why is you saying God and sex together? But I'm like, well, he made it. He made it. So at the end of the day, like, the problem is we trying to take him out of it, and we see the results and the fruit from that. So I'm just trying to say, let's keep God in the conversation, you know what I mean? And let's do better. Let's do it his way. And then so the channel and the show and everything isn't necessarily always centered around sex. I mean, we have children book authors come, you know what I mean? Like, anybody can come and share their testimony on GSL. Absolutely. But again, I just wanted to be intentional about creating a space that if we did want to say sex, you can come here and say sex. You know what I mean? Like, don't feel like, oh, because I'm a Christian, I can't say sex. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I could go on and on. So let me just pause, because I feel like
I mean, you definitely talk about a lot of different things on the show. It's not just sex. So for you folks that are really rigid about that kind of topic, God, Sex, and Love, GSL Talk Show goes into several different areas. They talk about transformation. They talk about people who go from, being in the corporate world, going in the ministry. I mean, there's so many things that you guys talk about on this show. And this sex trafficking piece with Allie, those are probably some of the most widely viewed episodes on the channel, I think. I mean, and that's for a good reason, because that situation is a real thing. It's happening in cities all across the nation. Exactly. And perhaps we're not talking about it enough. So I love that you support her in that, and she supports you. Mm-hmm. You got a fantastic channel and a fantastic talk show going on. Seriously. you think of a more surprising moment on GSL since you've been doing it? Anything that's like, oh wow, did you have one of those moments yet, or has it been like?
I mean, I think again what we're experiencing now with the overwhelming growth, because honestly, not long ago, I want to say maybe like a year or so ago, we were celebrating reaching 1,000 subscribers. We were just so happy to reach that goal. You know what I mean? We was like, we did it! Woo! You know. And then next thing we know, the Diddy case happened. When he got arrested, there's just this flood and overflow of people that came to the channel, finally watching the content that we have been putting out about Allie. Matter of fact, 3 to 4 years we have been already posting about Allie, and you know what I mean, and stuff like that. And people just started to pay attention when Diddy got arrested.
Isn't that crazy?
In this overflow of people now, I feel like that's been one of those things where it's a blessing, but at the same time, it's like, because now you're dealing with all these opinions and stuff, and then I'm trying to. See, I feel a responsibility to help the people understand, you know, because I know when I first came across Allie, I didn't have nobody helping me, like, you know, so I'm hearing the stuff she's saying, and I'm trying to look, I'm trying to Google, I'm trying to, you know, find out like what is this, what is that, and you know, and so I'm trying to hold people's hands through it now because I'm like, okay, you just found out about this, look, go here, go there, like, and some people get it, some people don't, and it comes with backlash and all these different type of things, but I just feel like I'm just going to continue to do what I feel like God is leading me to do, regardless of what people think and say, you know, and I've got so many statements at this point trying to explain, because I think some people think it's her channel and stuff like that. Even the other day, somebody was like, who are you? And I'm like, well, let me introduce myself again. I thought there was too much of me on the channel, but I guess not, you know? So,
well, I don't know how to speak to that. I'm gonna let you and Allie work that part out. But when I go onto the talk show and I look at the channel, you know what I'm saying? There's so much of the episodes with her in it that it's not exactly a 50-50 split. It's kind of overwhelmingly on that side. And I mean, people are viewing the channel and they're looking at your work and they're hearing the stories. I mean, that's not a bad thing, but I guess you got to figure out, you got to put out more stuff that's not that. I mean, you got to work a little harder. I don't know what that means. What's the lesson here?
Interesting thing with that, because if you go to the main page of the channel, you'll see that there's thousands of videos of content. Allie's playlist is only 100 of them. So I was going live every day doing the juice.
You know how algorithms work, Miracle.
You know what I'm saying? Then there's
stay up top. You know how that works, especially with YouTube.
I'm just saying, like, I mean, you know, and then even with the talk show comes out every Friday. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just, you know, it's okay. I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? But it's just
algorithm, Miracle. That's how this. You know how this works. If people are viewing that and touching on that thing, it's going to sit there on your front page. That's how that works.
Well, I mean,
you know that.
Look, I don't know how else to. I mean, because we got all these things that say miracle everywhere. But I thought it was too much for me. I was trying to figure out ways to bring some other people. I'm going to give other people opportunities to host shows on the channel and stuff now. But you know, as I've been talking to a couple people about that, because I'm sitting here trying to make other opportunities for other people. It's not all about me at the end of the day. But hey, you know, I'm glad people are finally watching her content. I'm glad people are finally seeing the message, because at the end of the day, like you said, this is a worldwide issue. It's not just here in the States. It's not just in your state. It's everywhere. And I think that's what people are missing. And then when she talks about the kids, she's not just talking about the ones that she, you know, was like those of like underground or whatever the case may be, or the ones that she was with when she was experiencing, you know, the elite trafficking and whatnot. She's talking about in our homes. You know what I'm saying? She's talking about, you know, in your family and community. And so that's the part that I feel like we're always reiterating when it comes to her particular testimony, because I feel like people are just getting lost in the idea that, oh, you're saying that there's people, you know, doing this and doing that. Where are they? Where are they? And it's like, she's talking about didn't you guys see this news report about the teacher of the year getting caught up in some sexual stuff with her elementary kids? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what she's talking about. She's not just talking about the elite stuff. She's talking about, hey, be more intentional. Like, I'm honestly, and this is, I say this all the time, but long story short, meeting Allie changed my whole perspective of school. You know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty much homeschooling my kid because of Allie's testimony, and not only because of that, but it played a big part. And so, I mean, he's in virtual public school and whatnot, so he's still getting a public school education, but at least I can see what he's learning. You know what I mean? At least I know, like, okay, when he interacts with the teacher, you know, and all this different type of stuff.
Yeah.
you know, I'm right. I'm way more hands-on than I thought I would be as a mom.
That's,
But
that's good. That's good though.
and so I'm
That's
just
good.
encouraging other people to be more hands-on with your children. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And let's protect our
That's
kids.
good.
They're vulnerable. So yeah.
No doubt, no doubt. This is, wish we can go longer, but we're out of time.
Oh.
GodSexandLove.com. All you listeners tuning into this episode today, check out GodSexandLove.com. It's not what you think. Don't be judged by the title. Go take a look at it. Final question for you, Miracle. We ask this for all of our guests. If you are not coaching, authoring books, you're not doing anything like that, what do you believe you'll be doing with your life, career-wise, mission-wise, vocation-wise? What would you be doing? Everything that you're doing now is off the table. Not entrepreneurship right now. You're not doing the GSL Talk Show. You're not coaching. None of that stuff. No book writing. None of it. What are you doing?
Well, like I said, I went to school for theater, so I was thinking, like, I mean, of course, like any other actor. No, taking that off,
Nope. Because you already doing it.
I mean, well,
yeah.
But God has shifted it. It's not necessarily. All right. Well, what about
no. What else you got?
Oh, now I'm lost there because I don't. I always just pursue my passion. You know what I mean? So I don't even. If I'm not doing what God is having me do now, and then if I'm not doing what I thought I was going to be doing originally, then I mean, maybe I would have been convinced to live the life that my family thought, like go be a nurse and go to school for that, and maybe I would have been heavily influenced by other people's opinions about what they thought I should do.
Sure. Okay, that's good. This has been a pleasure, Miracle. Thank you for jumping on here and blessing our podcast here at One-on-One with Mr. U. If you appreciate it, the GSL Talk Show. This is the host right here. You got to check out her channel on YouTube, especially I'm sure she's in other places as well, but GodSexandLove.com and the GSL Talk Show on YouTube. Check her out. I'll have her go into the comment section on our YouTube channel, what the episode is, and drop her links there so you can get easy access to that and check out her work. Fantastic podcast and talk show, fantastic YouTube channel. Proud of you. Thank you for doing what you're doing and being a voice for the voiceless. Appreciate you so much. Thank you again.
Thank you so much as well. And look, we're looking forward to having you on the show.
Oh, you want me on there? I talk straight, man. You sure you want me out?
Hey, come on over.
I'm ready for that invite. Send it out to me today, all right?
Yes, sir.
Listen, everybody. Miracle and Mr. U, we're out. Have a great day.